Okay, so let's go ahead and start. So, last session we talked about different aspects of strategy, what, where, when, and how what are the needs of the customers, how customers go about those needs. Uh, now we are going to talk about the two targets of competitive scope. So broad scope is the firm is going to compete in many customer segments. So we have two different types of scope when customers work, are in the market and we're trying to get to them and get their needs satisfied. We have two different scopes when we are going to start our business. So one of them is broad scope. So in the case of broad scope, the firm competes in many customer segments. So different type of segments, how segments come about, and everything we will discuss in marketing in detail. And those of you who have taken marketing course, you are getting familiar with that concept, or if you have not, you will during the course. And those of you who have already taken marketing, you already know what we're talking about. Okay. I try to speak as loud as possible and try to increase the voice. So, okay. The narrow scope is the firm selects a segment or group of segments in industry and tailors its strategy to serving them as exclusion of others. So, as opposed to broad scope, narrow scope, the firm tries to focus on one segment and or group of segments. So it's not just many segments. It's either one or only few group of segments, and try to focus on those while helping customers. So this is the 5 business level strategies. This is a very important grid. We will definitely be looking at this grid all through the semester. This is a very important grid called competitive advantage, the 5 business level strategies of competitive advantage. So I want you to really understand it. We'll discuss it in detail. So if you look at it, you'll see we have cost and uniqueness on the top, and on the side we have broad target and narrow target that we just talked about. So on the top we have 2 types of competitive advantage, which is cost or uniqueness, and then on the side we have 2 types of scope, which is broad or narrow. Okay, so let's see how it works. So when you have a competitive advantage and it shows in the cost level, so you will be, if it's a broad target, it's gonna be cost leadership. If it's narrow target, it's gonna be focused cost leadership. Okay, what do we mean by that? So in this case, you have the cost as your competitive advantage, which means that your cost is something you do different from others. Let's say everyone is pricing their ball pen that they're selling $10, and you are pricing it out for $8. So basically your cost is different. Your cost is better than everyone else. So that is your competitive advantage. That is something that you do differently that others cannot do. You can provide a cost, you can give out a cost that not other companies can compete with you. Your price is the best. So your price is your competitive advantage in this case. So now when you want to sell your products in the market, you have couple choices. You can either choose the broad target that we just talked about, which means you sell your product in many markets, or you will focus on narrow target, which is just a very niche, small part of the market. Just receiving messages that you cannot hear me. Can you please confirm that you are hearing me loud and clear? Am I breaking up when I talk, or is it clear? Okay. Those of you who can hear me clearly, can you confirm, please? Please write yes in the chat box so that I know you can hear me. Okay? Let's see. Okay. Okay. Okay, is it better now? Okay, that's good. Better. Okay, that's great. So we were talking about competitive advantages, and this grade we talk about the cost as competitive advantage. So we said when cost is your competitive advantage, means that you're providing a price which is different from the price that everyone else is providing. So your price is better. You're offering a cheaper price. Let's say if everyone is pricing the product at $10, you're providing it at $8, and that gives you a better price. That gives you an advantage over others. You're giving out a price that not everybody can compete with. So your price is cheaper, so you have advantage over others. Then for the same concept, you could provide that product into a broad target or a narrow target. So you can just sell that product into a niche market, which is the narrow market, or into a broad target. It means you choose as many segments as possible, like all these different segments to provide your bulk. So when it's a broad target, we call it cost leadership. But when it's a just a narrow focused target, it's called focused cost leadership. Okay. So in a sense, when you're providing your product in a broad market, like all segments, it is cost leadership because your cost is better than everybody else in the market. In all these different segments that you're providing the price and the product, it's actually a better price. So in a sense, you're leading the price. You have the price leadership. It means that your price is better than everybody else. But when it's narrow target, you're only focusing on a niche market, on a certain focused group of customers that are looking for that product. So it's not the cost leadership, because in other segments that you are not providing any products, there might be other providers that provide a better cost than you. So you cannot just claim that you have the cost leadership, but you can definitely claim that you have focused cost leadership, which means that you're focused on that certain segment that you are providing your products. So this is the first part. Then the second column, we have uniqueness. So sometimes instead of cost, you are providing something different than everybody else. As we discussed this example, let's say Virtu is a branch out of Nokia. They are based in the United Kingdom. All the employees, they make handmade cell phones, and the cell phones are focused to the niche market. So let's say if it's a celebrity or someone who is looking for a cell phone that is different from everybody else, they go to Virtu. They make mobiles or cell phones, just a few number, and that certain, let's say, version of the cell phone, if you buy it for, let's say, a few hundreds, like $75,000, that type of cell phone only have certain numbers that is produced, let's say 4 or 5. So that is a unique competitive advantage. It means that they are doing something that is different. It's not because of the cost, for sure. $75,000, there are not many cell phones around with this price. There's probably not any cell phones. So you cannot just say we are reasonably priced, because you definitely are not. But the point here is that you are unique. You are providing something different. You're giving the customer an experience that they won't be able to experience with buying a certain type of common cell phone, like an iPhone or Nokia or whatever. So here you're differentiating in a broad target. All the targets that the customers are coming to you, you're giving them something different overall. But sometimes you're focused, like only in a certain segment. Let's say you're in jet engine business and you are focused on a certain part of that engine. You only produce that part, and that is for sure very expensive, but you're focused. So you're focused on that certain part. You make that part, and most customers needing that part come to you and buy it for a certain price because you have been able to fix it. And so it's not because of the price, because it's very expensive. It's because of the fact that you're focused on that certain part of the engine and you're just selling it out. Okay, so that's the second column, but at the center, if you look, you'll see integrated cost leadership and differentiation. So what we talked so far, like the first column, the second column, those are for the days. Those are for the days that everything was pretty clear, that you would just go for the cost and just the broad, let's say, target, or uniqueness and a broad target. But nowadays it's different. Nowadays people want cost and uniqueness. They want to focus in niche market or narrow market and broad market. That's why we have another concept called integrated cost leadership or differentiation. So in this situation, you are trying to compete with the cost and at the same time with the uniqueness of the product. So you're saying that my product is not only cost efficient, but it's also very unique. You cannot buy it from anybody else. And when it comes to narrow market, same concept. So you're marrying all these together at a certain part. So this is actually very important to understand that the new era of marketing and customers' expectations have been around recently, and and suppliers to the product manufacturers or service providers are no longer able to say that we are just going to focus on cost or uniqueness. You have to marry them together. You need to just use a hybrid approach, which is an integrated cost leadership differentiation. Okay. So I see that you need the link to the book. I can absolutely do that for you. I'll give it to you at the end of the session. I believe you get the slides from the admin and also from the focus group that you are studying at, so shouldn't be any problem. Okay, so now let's just pause and see if you guys have any questions. Any questions, any comments, anything you want more clarification? Okay, no questions? Everything is clear? Okay, so let's go ahead to the next slide. So let's discuss them in detail. Yeah, I was asking if you have any questions and comments. So since nobody have any questions, we just move forward with the slides. So cost leadership strategy that we just talked about. Basically, an integrated set of actions taken to produce goods or services with features that are acceptable to customers at the lowest cost relative to that of the competitors with features that are acceptable to customers. So in this sense, you have focused on integrated set of actions that you take in order to produce that good or provide that service with features that are acceptable to customers. You create features for that product that is acceptable to customers. And it is at the lowest cost relative to that of competitors. So in this cost leadership strategy, customers are always comparing your products or services to other customers, and you are doing so, and you actually benefit from doing that because that's your competitive advantage. If everybody sells for $100, you sell for $80, and you take pride in that because your price is better than everybody else. So relatively standardized products, features acceptable to many customers and lowest competitive price. So these are some of the tools that you use, some of the ways that you end up having no cost. So you either standardize, so let's say McDonald's, when you go to McDonald's in one country and then another country, they're pretty much the same, they're standardized. They are exactly the same. The second point is using features acceptable to many customers. So when you are trying to please customers in a broad sense, you have to go for as many customers as possible. You cannot just say, okay, I do this product and I like it, so everybody else should like it. You have to do it according to the needs of the customers that are out there, that are buying your product. So those who are able to do well are those who focus on those features that are acceptable to customers and make sure they shine out. And then the lowest competitive price, of course, the whole point is about your price. You have the best price possible. You have the cheapest price. That's why the service providers will end up buying it from you. Okay, so let's see if there's any questions. Okay, awesome. Let's move on to the next slide. So cost leadership strategy. So when cost saving actions required by a strategy, so building efficient scale facilities. So when you are focusing on cost leadership, you're talking about efficiency. When you are like those companies like McDonald's, Costco, that they're just taking out the last penny that they can to make it cheaper as much as possible, everything should be efficient. So facilities that they produce the products, everything should be cost efficient. Everything should be utilizing an efficient process where it makes possible for you to create products that are cheaper, at least even $1 cheaper would work, because you are focusing on making it cheaper. So you take whatever it takes to make sure that your product is cheaper or your service that you provide is better priced. So one of the major keys in doing that is to be efficient. Your facilities that you use to produce the products, or even the facilities you use to offer them or to provide them for the customers, they should be efficient, cost efficient. Tightly controlling production costs and overhead. This is a very important thing, because when you want to be in business, you got to make sure that you're making a profit. You got to make money, otherwise you'll be out of business. So if you're just producing the product, selling it at the price that it's going to cost you, you will not be able to continue your business for long, because you'll go anyway, because you have to make profit to be in a business. But if you do, that is definitely related to the fact that you try to minimize the production cost and your overhead. So basically, the formula is pretty simple. It's your profit is your cost of production plus the revenue that you want to make, plus the profit. So that is the price that the customer is paying you. Let's say if you're charging customer for a ball pen for $10 and your cost of production is $8, so $2 is for your revenue. So if you manage to make that pen for $7 instead of $8, you will add $1 to your revenue. So it's really important and helpful if you can minimize your production costs. We discussed that in details, like how to control and minimize the production in the production and operation strategy course, and also some parts in service quality course that I'm teaching this semester. So we discussed that in detail. But basically, what we mean is to better the processes that happen for you to produce that good or provide that service, and eliminate those processes that are not relevant, that are not helping you. So by eliminating it and then changing them with the with the tools and ways to reduce that cost, you're bettering up. So reducing the cost of sales, R&D, and service. Unfortunately, companies, the first thing they think about when they want to reduce their cost is the R&D, research and development. And so they cut the budget from the R&D. That's unfortunately the first aspect companies look at, because it's so easy to just eliminate the R&D. R&D is pretty important. R&D is where it paves the way for you for future production, for future successes. So yes, research and development. So it's mostly costly. You gotta hire a consultant or a researcher, and then they will just go through your stuff and try to see what can be done better. Or you're offering a product already for several years, they come up with a new one. So these are all the results of the things that R&D will do, and it's definitely useful. But if you can't afford it, you have to just terminate it. So that's one of other options that you have when you're just focusing on the first grade that we talked about, broad market, and also you're focusing on cost. So building efficient manufacturing facilities. So I see further that somebody's asking about facilities. Facilities are those places that you produce a product or when you offer it. Facilities basically your outlay where you're offering your products. So if you are able to manufacture and build efficient facilities, that is going to help you. I mean, it's probably more costly to make a more efficient facility, but in the long run, that facility will help you to produce more products, better products, have more customers, serve them, help them to get what they want. So even though it looks kind of costly, and in the beginning you have to fork out some money, but down the line it'll benefit you, because the more educated you are, the more for the facilities that are efficient, you will be able to produce the product cheaper. So that expense that you make helps you to manufacture the product better. So that makes sense. Then monitoring costs of activities provided by outsiders. Sometimes, and a lot of times, you're buying certain parts of your products from people outside the company. You're outsourcing. You're buying, let's say, one part of the product from the outside. So you got to control them. You got to make sure that they are also giving you the best price. They are not just increasing their prices, or when you compare, those prices are not more expensive than others, because it wouldn't make sense if you do whatever it takes to reduce the price that you're paying for your products, and then because you're buying your materials from someone who is charging more than regular places, then your total cost will go up. So you're reducing your production costs, but your own, for facilities, your facilities are more cost efficient, but at the same time you're paying more for your products or your materials. So that doesn't make any sense. You got to make sure that you control the guys that are giving you those parts, and even they are monitored on it. Then simplifying production processes. As we will discuss, or they have already discussed in your operation management, it's just about processes. So when we talk about improvement in manufacturing or product manufacturing improvement or efficiency, we are talking about the processes. So we have several processes in action. So A happens, then automatically goes to B and C and D. The these are how you name your processes. But sometimes a certain process is either unnecessary, it's redundant, or it's not useful, you want to get rid of it, so you can just absolutely do that. So you always want to simplify the processes. You want to make sure that you make them easier. So that is really important. Okay. Any questions so far? Any comments, any questions, any part that you don't understand or need more clarification? Okay. So since there's no question and you guys are not that much participating in the class, let's just do something together. I want you to name an example of each of these. Who is doing a cost leadership in the market? Who is doing the focus cost leadership? Who is doing the depreciation? Who is doing the focus depreciation? And who is doing the hybrid approach? Okay, I see a question from Dr. Hunter. Can a specialization in some fields and outsourcing and the rest be a good policy for reducing the cost? Regarding your question, absolutely. Specialization in some fields and outsourcing will reduce your costs. That's definitely what a lot of companies are doing, and that's why every product that we buy nowadays is made in China, because the production is outsourced to China, and companies focus on different stuff to reduce their costs. That is definitely true. But I just want you guys to participate in a class activity. So name one example of each of these. So just a company. Okay. So just give me an example about cost leadership. Who is doing the cost leadership? If you want, you can give me a brief explanation also, but what is important for me is to realize that you actually know and you can understand what company is what company is focusing on what, and why. So just, I'll give you a few minutes, like 5 minutes max. Just think about it, and then we'll discuss. It would be good if you all participate, and that contributes to your score, and also it's actually good for learning. It's a learning process, so I want you guys to be participating as well. I don't want to be the only one who does the talking. So I want some feedback from you. So that is the task in the class. Let's just do that. This is not the one that you send me at the end of the day, next day. This is just something you want to do because I want you to also contribute. I want to make sure you understand this quick. This is very important. So it's very simple. Just give me a name, just examples. Who is doing cost leadership? Let's say, wherever you are, just say this company because of this. Very simple, short and simple. Okay. Your 5 minutes starts right now. Just think about it, and we'll all discuss it. So time is up. Let's see what we have here. So for the focus cost leadership, Mr. Miakel says that for the focus cost leadership, like the niche virtu mobiles to focus on a specialized area that the others can't compete in. This is completely of the company. Okay. So for cost leadership, McDonald's, the restaurant industry is known for yielding low margin that can make it difficult to compete with or other companies. They extremely successful strategy by offering basic food meals, able to keep prices low through the division of labor. But for cost leadership, an example produce okay. A firm pursuing a cost leadership strategy attempts to gain competitive advantage primarily by recurring its economic costs below its competitors. A firm pursuing a cost leadership strategy attempts to gain a competitive advantage by high quality and cost efficient company revenues for cost leadership reducible position fee differentiation. Okay, very good examples. Very good examples. So thank you all. Yeah, as you can see, the cost leadership is for those companies that are focusing only on cost, like McDonald's. They give you basic products, but its focus is only a certain segment of the market that they focus on. And then so same companies could have focused cost leadership for the certain products that they have. All these strategies can be used only even by a single company. Doesn't mean that you have to be one of them. As I said, you can choose these strategies. These are strategies. These are not like type of companies necessarily. I mean, there are certain type of companies that are doing that only. So, like McDonald's is mostly into cost leadership, not much into differentiation. But mostly nowadays, customers have a bit of everything. They have a bit of, differentiation. They have a bit of cost leadership, and it's just a mixture of all these. And Apple is also a very good example of a successful focused differentiation company. That's very true. So go back to the slides. Okay. So now we want to talk about how we are going about obtaining cost advantage. So first, we have the cost drivers. You have stuff that create that cost to us. And then second, we have value chain. So reconfigure if needed, and it's where we add value to the customers. So what about cost drivers? Cost drivers are alter production process. So sometimes you just make a change in production process. It will change your cost. Sometimes the change is tremendous. So tremendously, you have a change in your production only because you made a change in your processing. One process was eliminated, and one other process was substituted, and now alternatively you're using this new process, which is different from the old previous process, and you're bettering off. You're reducing a lot of costs. Then change in automation. That's very huge, especially in manufacturing. Big companies, it's big time. You are trying to use automation. Technology is actually the driver in the cost. It just reduces the cost as much as possible. You know that a lot of companies are going towards that route and becoming automated, and they don't use that many laborers anymore. Like Ford and a lot of American car companies did that. A lot of people were laid off because nowadays a computer can do what people used to do. So you use that, and that will reduce your cost tremendously. I have a question here. So the risks of cost leadership. The cost leadership risk is probably the chances of losing your customers because of the fact that you are focusing on cost only. Your customers are not loyal to you. Every single penny that you have a change in your final product, you will lose a bunch of customers because they're just going to you because of your prices. And if you can't keep it, which is really difficult to do, you will probably lose your customers. So that's the risk. The risk is losing your customers because of just not being able to provide the same price, or not being able to keep on having that price for a very long time. Companies, they change their prices quite often. It's because of a lot of economic factors. So there are a lot of risks involved. So going back to automation, as we discussed, so a lot of companies are doing that. Apple is big on it, and a lot of other companies are really using automation. And then new distribution channel. So basically, you have certain distribution channels when you're giving out your products that you just made to your customers. So sometimes new distribution channels will cost you less, and you will be able to make money out of it. So then we have new advertising media. Sometimes you change your media. You will reduce a lot of money that you were paying for your advertisement, and it's as efficient. So you got to be looking for all these cost drivers. These are parts of your production that will cost you a lot of money. So changing them, reducing their costs will reduce your overall costs. That's what you want to do, because you want to keep your revenue at a certain level so that your prices don't change that much. So this is really very important for you to be able to actually reduce your costs. Then we have direct sales in place of indirect sales. Sometimes you do have to sell products in direct sales. So instead of indirect sales, which is through media, you advertise, you sell it to retailers, and customers come and buy those products. Sometimes you directly go to customers. Let's say you're offering a certain unique product. That product, you can just go and approach customers directly and discuss with them the ins and outs of that product that you just made, which is a super good product. So these are all important when you're reducing your costs or you're bothered by your costs. But now let's go to the other side, which is reconfigure if needed. So we have new raw material. raw materials are very important because those are like the basics for you to produce a product. Let's say if you're making a cell phone, you need those ingredients, or even for cooking. Without those stuff that you put in the cook and you cook them, you can't have the final meat, final food. Same goes for production. Without the raw material, you have problems. So basically, sometimes you need to change your raw material, buy those raw materials that are cheaper, and basically your final materials would be based on the quality of your raw material. So you cannot just put crappy, terrible materials just because you want to save money. Well, on the other hand, you will lose other customers because your quality goes down. You are supposed to keep your quality at a certain level. Then forward integration, that we will discuss in detail later on, which is you venture into the next step of your business. Let's say you produce and also you be the retailer, or let's say you start creating those raw materials and then later on you use them for your production. Then backward integration goes back to the same concept of steps. We will talk that in detail, like the value chain. We will explain it fully. And then change locations relative to suppliers or buyers. Sometimes you change location, and changing location will give you the benefit of getting cheaper or better priced products. So sometimes you have to do that in order to be able to be cost efficient or have a competitive advantage. Okay. Any questions so far? Any comments or questions? Everything is clear? Okay. Oh yeah, forward and backward integration, we will talk it in detail, but basically value chain is it's the analysis of what you do in the process of creating value for customers. And forward and backward integration, forward is when you venture into the next step. So that's forward. Let's say if you're in production and you sell your product to retailers, the forward integration process would be creating some retail stores for yourself, and then you retail it yourself instead of giving it out to others. Backward integration is when you are going to your sources. Instead of buying your sources out from others, you will try to create those materials or resources. Google does that. A lot of, they're based in the Google campus or camp, that they have everything they need. Even their lunch for their staff, they harvest them. They try to do a lot of backward integration. They try to be independent as much as possible. So an example for automation. So yeah, as I mentioned, like in car industry, it used to be a lot of staff working on the parts, attaching them together and all that. Nowadays, automation, like technology, machines are doing that. They have laid off a lot of employees, and instead of them, they're utilizing certain machines. Those machines will assemble the parts together, check the quality if it's needed. So this is a change in automation. Initially, you incur a lot of money in order to be able to do that. But in the near future, that will give you back a lot of savings. So that is an example for that. Okay. So are we clear? Everybody is clear? Any other questions or comments or examples you want to mention? Okay, sounds good. And just a hint for you guys. I really appreciate when you give examples. If you could give examples from your own companies, from what you do. Like, let's say if you're talking about automation or changing automation, that would be awesome if you can give us examples of your own company. Let's say, okay, you say we just recently utilized these machines and they do this and that, and we save this much money. I mean, it's awesome to have a practical class, you know. If you can share your experience with your classmates, they learn from you, and when they share it, you will learn from them. It's just it makes sense, you know, when you're able to use your life experience and your career and use examples that are your own. That helps you understand the concepts far better. So I just wanted to mention that that would be great if you can, you know, do that. Okay. So let's go to the next slide. This is the value chain. So as we have previously discussed, it's all about adding value to customers. When you're in production, when you're producing something, all you care for is creating value for customers. So basically, this is your value chain. So this is the chain of actions that happen, or you do, or somebody else do, that will end in the final product, will end in your profit. So if you look at the first line, we have firm infrastructure. So firm infrastructure is the infrastructure of your firm, your company. You need to have a cost-effective management information system. Your MIS have to be cost-effective. You have to have a database, be able to reach that, be able to, you know, manipulate, take data out, put data in, you know, that kind of a thing. And then relatively few managerial layers in order to reduce the overhead costs. So you don't want to put all managers in your company and pay them a lot of money. That will be a lot of cost to your firm. What you want to do is just to minimize the number of managers, make it more practical, simplify planning practices to reduce planning costs. So it's great to have planning, but don't overplan. Don't plan for a lot of things that when it comes to doing them, you basically change your plans. It's good to be prepared. It's good to have planning practices, but try to reduce it to the minimum. Then human resource. Human resource is consistent policies to reduce turnover costs. This is a huge issue for companies, you know, turnover. When it comes to turnover, you gotta understand that the employee who is leaving you, the employee who is just resigning or leaving or, you know, churning, there's something wrong, you know, or if there is a employee that is not happy and leaving your company, there's something wrong. So you need to have some policies to reduce this to the minimum. So let's say you're a manager, you see like few of your employees are just leaving the company. That's a red flag. That's something telling you, okay, you need something to be done better. So policies are really important. There are intense and effective training programs to improve worker efficiency and effectiveness. That is part of the R&D, for human resource. You need to be able to continue effective, intense trainings for your staff. Keep them skillful and efficient. Teach them what they need to know. That is really helpful. That is really important for them to be able to be effective and efficient. I see here something from Mr. Aziz. Mr. Aziz says, changing in automation, I believe you mean. In our maintenance company, yes. Okay, that's great. And in your company, you had to check the whole machine on daily basis, but we are planning to install a sensor system on all machines. That this sensor system will send the alarm to controlling room in case of any damages automatically. Fabulous. That's a great example. You know how much time you're saving, how much you had to probably hire someone just to do those checkings, and by just implementing this machine, which will probably cost you a fortune, but in the long run, because you're saving time, you're saving money, so in the long run it pays you off. But initially you incur a cost to buy that alarm, setting it up. It's something new, teaching everyone how it works. It's a lot of issues involved. But in the long run, you'll be thankful doing that, because that saves you definitely a lot of time. You can probably don't have some certain guy or technician just checking all the time and that be their job. So it's just do their job. This tool will do the job for them. Okay, cool. Very good example. Thank you so much. Then we have technology development. Easy to use manufacturing technologies. So we talked about automation technology. Yes, it has to be user-friendly. It has to be doable. It has to be something that people will understand and are able to work with. Then investments in technologies in order to reduce the costs associated with the firm's manufacturing process. Exactly Mr. Aziz, Muhammad Aziz's example is a great example for this one. So I see some from Mr. Ahmad's side. What is the effect of employees' specialization on the volume of the product? The volume of the production will give you economies of scale. We talked about that in economy or business economics. That the more you create, the cheaper it will be. That kind of a concept. So it's helpful. It's helpful if your employees they are specialized in that, but how you want to do it and in what level, it depends. It depends on your type of company, type of market, a lot of issues. Okay, so we talked about technology development. Now we talk about procurement. Procurement is a system of procedures to find the lowest cost with acceptable quality price to purchase as raw materials, which you will have to have frequent evaluation processes to monitor supplies performance. So procurement is where you basically try to bring low cost or acceptable quality with a reasonable price for your raw materials. And as you can see, that margin that you see down there is that extra money that you put on all these so that you will get the final price. So then we have the other side of the grid, the value chain. which layers down the company into certain aspects. So first, we talk about inbound logistics. What do we mean by inbound logistics? Inbound logistics is basically how you bring in your products into your company. So highly efficient system to link suppliers that products with the firm's production process. So if you are producing your product and you need certain materials, you have to bring them in, you have to ship them in. So inbound logistics is how you will source your products from anywhere, like your materials. It could be from China, it could be from the next city, it could be from your own source, but it has to be something consistent because you have to put that in action, and you will rely on that all through your production process. So it can't be just a one-time thing, and whenever you need it, you just go look for it. You have to set it in place and make sure you have it. Then operation, of course, operation is the brain, is the heart of the business. You have to pump blood into the system, and heart is doing that by operating. Operating is when you're producing, you're making products or doing services you're supposed to do. So use of economies of the scale to reduce production costs. We just talked about it. Construction of efficient scale production facilities. We talked about facilities, producing facilities that helps you or induces the operation. And then the outbound logistics. Definitely, when you got the final product, now you're located at the customer, you want to get the customer, get the product to the customer. You want to send out the product and make sure it's received and delivered to customers. So outbound is really important. How are you going to send out your products? If you are a manufacturer producing a lot of those products, how are you just put them together and sell them to a certain retail store, So, or whatever you produce, you have to get it to customers. So it makes sense to have outbound logistics. You have to be in place and ready to go. Then you have a small, highly trained sales force. Sales force are also, they are the front line of your business. They are the very front, trying to get as much as customers as they can, as much sales they can. So products priced so as to generate sufficient sales volume. And then finally, service. So when you get the customers, you do the marketing, everything, you cannot just say, okay, I'm done. No, you are in a relationship with a customer. So when something goes wrong, you have to provide the service, and that's really important because a lot of companies, a lot of folks are going into providing service, because functionality of the products is actually met easily. Everyone is giving out the product that does the job. But how would you service the customer throughout the time that the customer is using that product? That's a very important. That's the biggest question that you want to ask and have a good answer for it. And then finally, the margin. As I mentioned, the margin is something on top of all these that will give you the final price. Yes. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Yeah. Okay. So, any questions so far? Any comments or questions? This value chain is really, today's session is pretty important. I want you guys to really focus on understanding these and trying to be able to clarify it for you guys so that you can, see exactly how it works. Yes, Dr. Hunter, absolutely. This is very important. The quality management system is actually going into all these aspects and try to make sure you're where you're supposed to be and you're doing what you're supposed to do. But it is much further than just a quality measurement. This is basically the map of your company. This is the map, and for every single company, you will have a value chain like this. But the names and the parts, it's filled with certain departments, and how it works is different. But the same value chain applies to any company. Okay? Very good. More comments? More questions? I'm ready for them. Are there any questions? So here are some of the value creating activities for cost leadership. So they have to be cost effective management information system, which is MIS, few management layers. We talked about it. We try to minimize the number of managers in the company, simplified planning, consistent policies. The policies that you put in action, they have to be consistent, and they have to be persistent, and they have to stay. You can't just have a policy and then remove it and have a new policy for a new product. It has to be consistent policies. You just follow them. Effective training. Training is absolutely a must. Your employees will go outdate pretty fast. The technology, everything is gonna, improve every day. So you want to make sure that your customers are aware of all these changes. So training is really important. Then easy to use manufacturing technologies. We just talked about technology, how the technology can help you, better your company, and it is important. Investment in technology, we talked about it. Finding low cost raw materials. Try to minimize your costs. And where you buy your groceries to start cooking or producing, whatever you want to do, you have to find the low cost material. Of course, you have to have a certain level of quality for those materials. But yeah, examples of consistent policies. Let's say you put into place a policy that in order to buy certain products, you have to do it through a certain department, and let's say that department will take care of the negotiations, and then when everything is done, that department will take care of the purchase. You have this policy, and then out of a sudden, for every single time that you're producing, there are certain people who just do it themselves instead of having the department do it. Like your one department needs certain materials, you go ahead and order them instead of the purchasing department that your policy is suggesting to be the one who does it. So this means you're not consistent. Yeah, examples with your own company. Yeah, just your own company have certain policies regarding certain way of practice. Like the banks. Let's say Wells Fargo Bank in the United States, they have policies. They have a policy that, let's say, if there is a wire transfer, that wire should be done to the wire department transfer. So if the wires are done differently, some of them, and some of them are done the way they're supposed to, this will create conflicts. And regarding the economies of scale is an economic term. Basically, economies of scale is when you sell more, it's cheaper for you. let's say you're producing ball pens, and they cost you $10 if you produce 10 of them. But if you produce 100 of them, you know, because of the certain fixed cost that you have, will reduce over the bigger number, so your total cost will be less. I mean, your cost per ball pen would be less if you produce like tons of ball pens. So then, by selling those tons, you're benefiting from economies of scale. You're still considering a ball pen costing you $8, which is not true, because now, because of economies of scale, that number, the ball pen number 500 will cost you, let's say, $6 instead of $8 because of economies of scale. So these are all important aspects. I want to just pause here because I don't want to confuse you with a lot of new stuff. Just let's pause here. I want to give you an assignment, a task. Okay. I want all of you, for today's class, draw this chart for me, and then put your company's information there. I mean, not the confidential information for sure, just the general. I want you to make sure you understand. We have an example from Dr. Cuttard. For example, this year your company does not accept cash, but next year it does. Next year, after that, only accepts Visa cards. Very good example, Dr. Cuttard. Yes, exactly. You have to be consistent in your policies, you know. So make sure that you have certain policies. Okay, so now this is your assignment. Draw this chart. I mean, like right now that you want to share it with your classmates, you don't have to draw it because it's not possible in your chat box. You just need to say your firm infrastructure and just write it down, and then the next, and then the next. So I want you to just apply this to your own experience. If you're not comfortable doing it for your current company, you can do it for your previous company. But I want it to be your own experience, not just a generic value chain. I want a specific value chain from each of you. So you have something from Mr. Amazon. There is a relationship between firm size measured in terms of volume of production and cost. There is a relationship. Thank you for your comment. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I'll give you a few minutes. I don't expect you to finish it all. Just try to do like one or two, and then we'll share with the class so that you know how to do it. Okay, it's not a. I don't want you to do a space shuttle thing. It's just put your experience in here. Same data. I mean, it's pretty much the same. Firm infrastructure. We have the same firm infrastructure for almost every company, but it's just different information. So just take a few minutes, and we'll go from there. Any question regarding the task? I really advise and suggest that you take these tasks and assignments seriously, because these are really important. These are foundations of your business strategy. So if you don't take them serious and really try to understand them and apply them into your own career, there's no point actually learning it. So this is something throughout the semester we'll be talking about. So please make sure you understand it. Please make sure you can apply it into your own experience. Yeah, sure. Please apply the value chain to your own company. So just your company value chain. So what I need from you is your company value chain. As I said, I don't want any confidential information, just a generic value chain. You know, something that shows that you understand value chain and you can apply it. You know, so please make sure you do it. These are absolutely important for your learning process because just learning theories is not going to help you. You definitely have to be able to apply those theories in your career. So I give you a few minutes now. Your company menu. Your company menu. Okay. Okay. Just take a moment. I'll give you 5 minutes. Then I'll come back to discuss a bit further, and then we'll go from there. Okay, your 5 minutes is up, so let's see what we have here. So, Untitled Chapter, cost-effective MIS, what do you have setting up database and login system that allows professional. Very good. This will facilitate the access information. Also, it will reduce internal correspondence. Very good example, very good. So, Semiaco, firm infrastructure for MIS, there is a computerized system, shares this folder, the internal working, okay, relative managerial level, more horizontal managerial layers. Done by all staff at the beginning of the year. Every 6 months. Okay, very good. Human resource management, one person in company, do several related tasks. For procurement. Okay, very good, very good. So as you can see, you all have all of these value chain parts in your company, like even when it comes to logistics or operation or marketing and service, you see that there is every single aspect of all these value chain are in your company. So basically, it's really important to understand it and be able to, because when we want to talk about the strategies, a lot of times you only have to focus on one of them or a mixture of them, and then you'll be able to make certain changes or make improvements or, understand certain aspects of your business strategy. So coming up with a business strategy starts with your value chain. First of all, you need to have your value chain. If there's improvements needed, you got to make those excuse me, happen. Very good examples. Okay, so since everyone has realized and understood it, and thank you so much. So I want you all to just put that into this chart and just send it to me by next day, like as it is the case for all of the assignments. So please do that. Now, if you have any questions for me, are there any comments or questions? Does anybody need any more explanation about anything? Any questions? Any comments? Is everything clear? Okay. Can everyone hear me? Okay. So, oh yeah, sure. The slides I have, the admin already put them in MLS. It's actually accessible to all of you. The slides for the whole semester for business strategy is actually available. But it's on your MLS. Please contact Saeed or Mr. Reza, and they will help you, or ask them. Okay, please ask them, and I will MLS, no MLS. Yeah, as I mentioned, they have it on your learning center. So I don't know why you don't have it yet. Okay, I'll double check, but it should be on your when you log into your learning center. It should be there. It's actually available, and it's for the whole semester. But I try to just send an email to all of you with the slides, and just put it in a zip folder and email all of you, so that to make sure everyone has it. I can do that. But you can, in the meantime, you can contact Saeed or the admin and ask for it. They will also show you how to access them online. Yeah, sure. I'll send you the whole semester. Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so thank you, everyone. So this is the end of the class. Don't forget to email me your value chains for tomorrow. And you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week. You take care now.